Okay, welcome everybody. Glad to see you here today. Of course, y'all know who I am, but got some new people with us here in the session or who haven't been recently, so I better say, I'm Deacon John Wilson, West Angeles Education and Enrichment Director. I hope I'm being heard there, Brianna. Can you hear me? Wonderful. And there's Brianna Bennett here. Say hello, Brianna.
Hi, everyone.
And we have Christina Martinez, who may be busy. I hope she hears me.
Morning.
All right. Christina graduated from Dominguez Hills just recently, maybe a year ago now. And then Brianna, then Brianna Bennett's a proud graduate of San Diego State University. You'll be hearing from her next week. She doesn't know it yet in a panel we're going to do. She promised she'd do it 3 months ago, so I'm gonna hold her to it. All right, okay. Let's go ahead and do this. Let me change the view here. All right. Okay. All right, let's change for me. All right, okay, this is our second meeting. Got a lot to do today. Keep your notes nearby. Pray with us. I think we're going to have Christina sending you a copy of the presentation, if not already in the chat. It's going to be a PDF of it. So you can just relax and you'll have that for your consultation. Students, this again is one of those presentations you'll want to keep a copy of and put in your bag when you go to college. I think it will really help you. You'll think about it a lot. This session will provoke a lot of thoughts and relates to things you may be seeing in the news and are wondering what to do, because how can you cover life on the college campus and not talk about the issues that we're going to talk about today? But first, let's finish up with stuff we didn't do last week that I can take my time and do it right. Relationships, sexuality, and drugs. I guess some people say, oh, Deacon, you shouldn't, but we need to cover these issues. They're very important, I think. Let me go ahead and add these controls. There we go. 7 reasons to abstain from sex before marriage. And you'll notice that these reasons are all logical reasons. I don't have scriptures at all on these. I could do that and preach to you. But let's use reasoning and logic. And there's probably about 20, by the way. I narrowed it down to 7 some time ago. And I think these are the most reasonable and rational reasons I can come up with. Let me turn off this. Knowing me already. The odds are that if you are having sexual interactions or have one soon, the person will not be your spouse. That is really important to understand, students. And I said sexual interactions. I think that's important to put it that way. It's probably a good time to talk about a couple of issues with your current relationships. And I will have some things to say about that will help. And that you're probably wondering about, because you're in a precarious situation. You might have a relationship with someone in the opposite sex, and you're getting ready to go away to school, they get ready to go their way. And I want to be sure that I do cover that. Pregnancy could unacceptably alter your future. I had a young lady years ago. She was a wonderful leader in our church. And years ago, I spent some time and went away to college and was doing well. And poor thing, ran into it. By the way, a staff member of her school got her pregnant. And I just watched her tell me, Deacon, don't worry, I'm going to finish school. And of course, just the way, her body reacted to being pregnant. She couldn't finish and she never did. And she used to come speak at these and because she wanted students to understand how it could change your future. I'll talk about young men too. There's some ways it affects young men that I think are just as concerning about sex before marriage. STDs, including genital warts, herpes, et al., can ruin your future relationships. Now, I had taken this bullet out because health-wise, they thought they defeated it, but they're back. Stronger than ever. Different types that are not treatable can remain with you for a long time. And that's very important. Premarital sex creates women, listen to this, women who are inalterably bonded to a young man who is not ready for commitment or responsibility of a family. I know society is saying it's cool, and you're seeing it in the media, TV shows, and it's everywhere, but this is a concern, you know, a big part of it, how a woman is designed, and I observe with my daughters too, and it causes a bonding. Now, there's a scripture about it, but no need to bring that in. It's true. It creates cynicism in young ladies about later men who are better and even good men. Once that first one or two, you know, just forget you after it happens, you know, leave them kind of out on a limb. There's a song by Tina Marie called Out on a Limb. You should look it up and listen to it. I used to play that at this point here for young women in our young ladies sessions. We used to do those. But that's a good song to look up and listen to. That's a good homework assignment. The words are so great. And if you know anything about Tina Marie's life, you know what she was going through at that precise moment. And it always brings tears to my eyes as a father when I listen to her singing once I learned the what's behind the song. And I'm like that about music and about singing, about words and lyrics, you know, etc. But that's a good song, Out on a Limb by Tina Marie. Teaches and reinforces in young men, get this, that love begins with sex and that commitment is not necessary. My Lord, I used to talk about Jacob and Esau here and how men need to have self-control. And that's really what a man is all about, having self-control and protecting women. And I know that sounds to this age like, oh, it's condescending about women. No, it's not. It's what men should do. I think deep inside, women want a man that will protect them. Having sex with someone while in high school or college can place young men and women in difficult situations that cost them educational time. And I'm not talking about pregnancy here. I have a young man that was in a relationship with a young lady at San Bernardino, and it got sexual. And then when he ended the relationship, she could not accept it. And I have ones the other way around where, you know, a woman ended the relationship, but a man couldn't accept it. And they had this, in each case, males and females, it caused them to stop out of college. And it all began with a sexual relationship. This is not even to talk about the men who are wrongfully and rightfully accused of, sexual battery, or women who accuse men of it when they're upset with them. And have a young man who had a big lawsuit with Cal State. I better not mention the CSU, even though the gag order is off it now. There's been a settlement of over $300,000 because he had to go in front of the police and the courts. His education stopped for 2 years. And CSU had to settle it out of court because the young lady confessed that she had lied. And I have them the other way around too. You wouldn't believe it. I have the other way around. I've seen this in college. I have a case like that happening right now at a back Eastern school. I'm gonna keep the school's names out of it. A lot of these view graphs I'm presenting come from my experience. And I sure hope you listen to these. These are very important. This is a very important bullet. It's not just talking about pregnancy or STDs. So those are 7 good reasons. I hope that you got those. Well, just why did God create? Excuse me, Laura, let me out. Just why did God create sexuality? It prepares you physically for your mate. Hallelujah. It's part of nature's way of, even with animals, of them getting ready. The attraction that occurs, of course, with animals, it's seasonal, but with humans, it's a lot more complex. But it prepares you for a mate one day. It's very natural to feel sexual. It provides for emotional security for children within marriage. Oh, I used to not understand this. And I heard a well-known preacher say this, and the Spirit revealed it to me. It flashed me back to my childhood, where my parents were not really close at all. There was a lot of tension in our home, and my father would leave the house for a night or two. And when he would come back, I could hear him downstairs, and opening the door late at night, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. I would look at my clock, ticking, and I would see it. And he'd come slowly up those steps. There were 16 steps to our house on Taylor Street in DC. And he would check each of our rooms and see how we were doing, because he loved us. He'd open my door up, and I was the only boy. He would come in and kind of tuck me in, even though I was faking like I was asleep. But then I listened to see if he would just go back out the door. Listen closely. When he would turn left, hallelujah, and go into the bedroom and close the door, I felt a sense of security. They were back together when he wasn't on the couch or out of the house. Sex in marriage creates emotional security for children. Ooh, I could say a lot about that. I feel goosebumps when I think about that in my personal life, even though that was maybe 50 years ago, more than 50 years ago. It motivates men's survival and family protection and instinct in nature. The man wanting to protect his family, it motivates. Don't mess with my wife, that kind of stuff. That's about the best way to get me mad at you, you mess with my wife. Provides for periodic renewal of the bond in the marital context. What a beautiful thing that is. Inside of marriage. If you become or are sexually active, you are adversely affected when you finally are married. You bring all those relationships into the relationship. And only God's power can really help sometimes. It creates a kind of cynicism in the marriage sometimes. Like, all these are from personal experience with youth, my kids who have gone off to get married from my program. What young lady should question about a guy? How does he act when he's angry? Woo, that is huge. You don't really know a guy, ladies, to know how he acts when he's angry. That's why you need a period of courting, years. And you should be dating as a part of the courting. It's not just to figure out for men to figure out who they're going to go to bed with. How does he act when he's angry is huge. Here's another one. How does he treat his mom and his sisters? That's going to tell you how he's going to treat you. What does he think and say about them? This is a good way, even for later on when you're thinking about marriage and evaluating whether you should marry someone. I use these questions when I've actually had the happy experience of marrying two young people who came through my program, of being the celebrant for their marriages and even counseling them. And it was a very eye-opening experience. It occurred during the pandemic. Both of them were married shortly after or while it was ending. These are the kind of questions that should come up in a young lady's mind. Don't worry, I'm gonna get to the guys. What time does he want to call you in the morning or night? Is he too physical? Will he leave you if you stop? These are huge. Is he at your life level or above? He got a gold tooth, his pants are sagging, he's a bad boy, he ain't for you. You are the queen, ladies, and nobody touches the queen but someone who acts like a king, and I'm going to show you about that later. Is he at your life level or above? Does he love God? Well, the same one you do. Think ahead. You have to be equally bonded. For young men to consider, gratification of sexual needs until marriage, listen to this, is the ultimate manhood. That's how you can tell you a man if you can wait. In general, if you're a patient man and can wait for gratification, even in your business and your career life, that's how you know you're becoming a man. Wimps and boys can't control themselves. Those are just wimps. I wanted to say something else, but I need to talk to you men who are seeing this when there's only men around. A man can be in a relationship. How do I word this? A man can, and in doing so, saves young women. He gets into that relationship and he feels that way. He can save young women. Love and commitment are separate from sexual attraction. They're different. Emotionally damaged ladies, some of us men, I was like this, want to rescue young ladies. And I got into very bad relationships that way. Just wait. Just wait. We got to watch for narcissistic traits. That's not only true with women, but men too. Ladies, look for that. A man who just is into himself. And when they get into that narcissistic pattern, that's really a mental thing that can't be changed. Just some guidelines for when you're dating, because dating is when you're looking at potential spouses. Until then, you're not dating when you go out with someone, ladies and men and gentlemen. You're interviewing. You are interviewing. You are not dating. What do they think about their fathers, ladies? They hate their fathers and don't want to talk to them. That's an alarm. Because they're not under control. There's no one over them to which they feel responsible. Of course, their mothers too, but don't get too focused on that. What do they think about their fathers? This is going to be the father of your children. I know you don't want to think about that, some of you, but things will change for you in 5 to 10 years. You'll be thinking about children. Here's your romantic timeline. I put smiles. I don't remember why. I guess I always smile when I get here. I'm suddenly a very romantic kind of guy. Senior year in high school, senior year in college, setting your career. Those are the 3 phases in blue. In your senior year in high school, up to your senior year in college, I suppose, you're interviewing and abstinence. As you get later in your college, you maybe start looking for a spouse. I don't know. Dating and abstinence. How about that? Dating is different than interviewing. Because when you're interviewing, you can't be caught up. I know some of y'all think when you have someone you go with, and what does go with mean? I mean, I have blue shirt on, I have blue pants on, they go with each other. But you don't belong to anyone. You should be able to get to know different people, different young men and young ladies. Go out in groups and get to know each other. From that pool of people you get to know, you move to dating. I know so quick we think we're into dating, but dating is a place where the couple begin to discuss where the relationship is going. And when you start to date people, these are candidates for marriage. Then when you sort of get set in your career, quote, I would say your first job, maybe even as you leave college. I've had students get married their senior year. Marriage and lots of children. Now, some people feel they need to wait till after their master's. See my video on what I think about master's degrees and about a waiting period. Marriage and lots of children. There we go. Let's talk about internet relationships. I got to bring that up now. Be careful about visits from people from out of town. How about your friends being chaperones for you if you got to go visit them or see them or meet them? Ladies, do not travel to other cities to meet guys. That happens a lot. My students are away on campus, starting to scare your parents. But I don't think you should travel to meet a guy, even outside of a town, short ways. Stay around your campus and bring your friends with you when you meet people, especially from away. Get your friends and your acquaintances involved to go with you. If they don't want to meet you that way, oops, that's an alarm. That's a person you don't want to be with. Control your net use if your grade's not elevated. Matter of fact, you need to control. We got our sister Bennett, when she comes to speak in a few weeks, is going to talk about this. If your grades are not elevated, you need to control your use, your TikTok and your Instagram, and you know, if you can't, that's a clue that you're addicted. I have a great video about that too, which maybe I'll make that available. Remind me about that, Christina, please. I'll make sure I get that to them. Follow the same timeline that we had before as above, even if you're doing an internet relationship. You're interviewing first. You're not going to jump faster because you've known them online longer. They go through the same process because in red above, those are in-person processes. Other behaviors to be careful about. Drugs and drinking. The most serious addiction begins in college. Should be in college. Sorry about that. Well, about marijuana, which I'm going to call kush. I don't know what y'all call it now. I don't know. It's illegal in some states, so be careful. Check the state your school's in. I have some students at Hampton that found out that Virginia and DC, by the way, it's illegal. Because remember, DC is a federal district. And it's a federal offense on the campus to use any kind of drugs because they're getting federal money. You'll find out that possession of even kush by a roommate could get you in trouble. They could say you knew about it. When you sign that dorm agreement, we talked about that last week. You're agreeing that if you know about stuff happening in the room, when they do the investigation, you could lose some time in school. Now, kush seems serious, not so serious to you because here in California, it's legal. But remember, on the campus, it's not. But hear what I know about it from my work. I have students that have gone to jobs, gone on to work, and were interviewing for better positions. I had a young lady that wanted to work for the FBI, and she lined up a job. They were interested in her, but the last step was not a blood test, but they pulled her hair. And you know, kush stays around longer than even coke in your system. And she didn't get the job. Now, she ended up going to work for the police. She hopes to get there one day, but she was shattered by it. There's still federal jobs that are checking whether you're using marijuana. That's a strange contradiction in society. I know there are all these people that come at it from a race angle. They feel it's racism to prevent kush use. In the Black community, that's regarded as a problem, that you're a racist if you don't agree with it. But it's something we need to think about, and I'm talking about it here. I know it's somewhat controversial. Regular use many times, if you're regularly using it, leads to more serious drugs later on. Casual use is pleasurable, but there's a dimming of the mind. It begins to affect the grades if you're using it a lot. If you smoke kush, you could be mixed up with the wrong folks, but you really shouldn't do it and not risk that. That gets us into parties. You might be surprised because I'm from Kojic. I'm not against parties, but make sure you know what a bad party is. My daughter told me one time she went into a party at her college and they took a big sniff. They smelled that kush. They turned around and went to Denny's for the night, hung out. You got to be careful what they're putting in the drinks and what's happening. And it's not on the campus. These are off campus. Because remember, you can't use this stuff or you even drink on the campus. Campuses are supposed to be dry. Or in some states, they'll have a special part of the campus where you could. They don't enforce it. But usually you're going off campus to parties. I got some stories I could tell you about forever and ever, where police rolled up in the parties and my students were there and got arrested. And some schools have agreements with the police where they're informed and it goes on your bill, the fine, and your parents find out. Be careful about good parties. I want you to party. Remember, I told you last week, you are required to have fun while you're in college. It's a requirement to have fun while you're in college. Please know the campus policies on drugs and drinking, therefore. These are risks to your future. Some students have had to stop out over that. Let's talk about living a life close to God on the campus. I hit this quickly but effectively, I think. There's this prayer in John 17. I just want to focus on one little part. My prayer is not that you take them out of the world. That's a bad prayer. This is why I don't agree with people who say, don't go to college, don't send Christian students to college. I don't agree with that. I want y'all to go everywhere, all over the place. But that you protect them. See, I have that kind of faith in God. He can protect you. This is the prayer we need to pray, parents, like Jesus prayed. I haven't read because Jesus prayed this prayer. They're not of the world, even as I am not of it. You have to decide, listen to this, that you're on the college campus, but not be changed by the ideas and beliefs that you hear. We're going to talk a lot about that today. Decide. It's a decision to know the truth. Here are the three prevailing belief systems in the world today, the three top belief systems that are kind of all in conflict with each other. All right? Get it here? Leftism is radical Islamic fundamentalism and Western American traditional values. There are others too that you hear about on the campus, students tell me. And all this stuff I kind of observing what students are telling me. This is very current stuff. We'll talk about all of these in a different sort of way, a more kinetic way. What are the major world conflicts? Let's talk about what is a liberal. And this is something, I'm not going to directly define it today, but it used to be most Democrats. I just want to get you this understanding. And what is conservative? It's most Republicans. Left versus right will be a huge conflict on your campus leading up to the 2024 election. Right now, the country is divided. Maybe you're going to school in the fall, and then you're going into spring in the election season. It's going to be pretty tense on your campuses. Right now, I'm not going to get into what you should believe today. I'm going to get into leftism as a philosophy, because I believe that I know a lot of liberals that are not on the left, and I'm going to define that in a minute, okay? Right now, the country is so divided, you guys, down the middle. But it's not only just left and right. I think a lot of historians think we have some different formation going on in the country right now. And they look at the conflicts. Again, I won't get a lot into the politics of it, but just wanted you to know, be real about what you're going to see. The Republican Party is divided. Trump versus non-Trump. One of y'all's dogs got mad at me. Probably Christina's dogs don't like me.
That probably my dog.
I thought it was Christina's dog.
Honestly, America, there are a lot of like tension between two sides.
Yes.
In my opinion, there should be four sides.
Yeah, funny you'd say that, because a lot of people think that that's where we're headed. There's Trump versus Republicans, there's left versus the Democrat Party, there's conflict, left versus not left. And there should be. If you're feeling that you don't agree with a lot of things you hear from your politicians, that's where we are right now, y'all. That's why a lot of people feel we're going to see some kind of realignment that's not along political parties. A lot of us are disgusted with our parties. I'll just leave it at that. Each side sees it differently, no matter what the other thinks. It's just everybody sees it totally differently. This is again, I'm only bringing it up to give you an idea of what's going on. If you want to know listen to this. If you want to know what's going on the college campus, get more into what's happening. We're going to talk about that more next week. How do you get your information? We're going to talk about indoctrination. We're going to talk about information, that you should look at different sources. That's going to be next week. You're going to hear from students on the campus talking about that. Leftism is the dominant ideology of most college campuses. We are now a center-left nation. You have to understand that. Leftist definition. Here's just some things. And again, I don't want to get into define. I want to tell you kind of what it believes so you can be kinetic, because I don't want to get really political, but just what it kind of is. And a lot of these things you'll agree with. Doesn't make you a leftist, not at all. But I want you to know what leftism is all about. It's the concept of equity, equal success for all, not equal access or equal opportunity. I believe equity includes that, but when you read what they expect, equal success for all, equal rights for all as opposed to equal opportunity. We're going to discuss this later in session 3. That should be a 3 when we talk about race in college. That's a good place to talk about that. Gender is fluid and a social construct. Both sexes are the same. Marriage is just two people. Leftism is the driver in society towards making of individuals. This is this whole concept of making individuals. More on that another time. Opposition to social hierarchy and constructs. That's why the opposition, a lot of times you see to the rich. And a lot of these you may agree with, that's fine, but I want you to know it when you see it. Opposition to organized religion. It's a big part of the left. In fact, a lot of your campuses, like some UCs and definitely CSU, there are definitely regulations and rules on Christian groups that are not imposed on other religions like Muslim groups. Like there's this rule, I forget the number of it in CSU, where Christian groups are sometimes not allowed to pick their leadership, that it has to be picked from a group of students who may not even be Christian. That was a big thing that a lot of us pressured, and they've now sort of backed down. And that was a huge thing about, even before you went, Sister Brianna, like 10 years ago, maybe longer, actually about 15 years ago. Criminals have the same civil rights as non-criminals. That's a big thing now. Hatred of conservatives. Oh boy, especially Trump. Oh, he's the devil. We hate him. Socialism is a form of leftism, total opposition to capitalism. Over the last 6 years, we've moved to the left. Some campuses are more left than others. Notice we have this concept of blue and red states. People in blue states hate the red state people. Red state people don't like the blue state people. It's so crazy. But yet you're just trying to go to school. You may be in a red state or a blue state. A lot of y'all in red states. I don't know, especially if you're down south. Here's the way the college campus kind of shakes out these days. Again, this is my observations. 70 to 75% of colleges in the blue states anyway are left liberal. 65 to 75% of college professors in the arts, communications, humanities are left or liberal. Very few are conservative. You do see it in Protestant and Christian colleges and on some red state campuses. And you see the professors could be liberal, they could be conservative, or could be in the middle. See how the arrow goes to the middle? You see a lot of differences, like the STEM professors tend to be not as political. So if you're majoring in physics or engineering, biology, some of your STEM things, you won't see it as much, okay? I want to be sure you see that distinction there. The professors of these subjects are typically very left, and the students all know it, and they just sort of put their filters on, or either you have to start thinking about how you're going to react when they give you certain assignments, students. You never know. Political science, very much, typically openly left in their views. Remember, non-religious, they'll state things you don't agree with. You got to get a grade from them though. English, anthropology, history, and this is where I hear it the most from students. I have some students right now for at HBCU who are telling me about these. Economics and women's, gender, African, Hispanic studies are very left in their views. So if you're thinking about those, just keep that in mind. You may hear things that you don't that don't agree with your values. You know, don't feel like you have to get rid of your values to please any kind of professor. They are very persuasive and strong individuals. You may find that difficult, okay? Top movements and ideologies on the college campus that will, or could, I should have said, challenge your faith in God and family values, and are very distracting at times. Atheism, agnosticism, deism, materialism. We'll talk about a little bit of that in a minute. I'll give you some ways of thinking and speaking about it very shortly. Free speech zones, where certain things you can't say. I think it's Berkeley. There's a book of 300 terms you can't say, and areas of the campus where you can't say certain things. And they'll give that to you during orientation, and you have to follow it. The Christian groups even have to follow it. And they can't. There was a young lady who was running for student office at Berkeley, and there's a popular video of her being castigated and condemned and yelled at and cursed at. There's a lot of intolerance of religious thought and even moderate values. You might see that. You might have a roommate that's oppressed that way. Anti-capitalism, for sure. Anti-Christian and regulation and management is huge right now. There are people that believe that if you're a professed Christian, you're a white supremacist, even if you're Black. You're going to see that in a video I'm going to show you in a minute. Radical fundamental Islamics. Transgender activism is the hugest one right now. And I have some things to say about it. You might be surprised what I think about that. It's definitely not the idea of transgendered people on campus. There is no problem with that. And I'll go ahead and tell you now, anybody that thinks that is certainly not a Christian. So you'll see how I deal with that in a moment. But that's huge on the campus. I felt I might need to ignore it, but I can't. I'm hearing and seeing in the news, and my students are telling me things, and I've got a lot more coming out of the pandemic, students speaking to me about what's happening on their campuses. Gay activism, not as huge as it was before. In fact, I'm finding Christians on the campus are kind of intersected with gay activists right now over transgendered issues. Isn't that interesting? I'm actually seeing more fellowship there, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's zero wrong with that. We should love and be tolerant of everyone as Jesus Christ was. Way more on that in a minute. And then radical Black activism is huge still. Atheism, agnostic materialism definitions. Here we go. Atheism, the belief that there is no God, or unbelief in the existence of God. College professors, many of them are atheists, which is okay. They can believe what they want, but they will, when they're tenured professors, push it in class. Try to understand that and not be intimidated by it. Agnosticism, uncertainty about the existence of God. So they don't think there's no God, or there is. They're just uncertain about the existence of God. And materialism, which I mentioned earlier in this presentation. Listen to this. If something cannot be physically perceived, it is not relevant. So belief in God or in the Lord or the Holy Spirit is something that they belittle and bemoan. It can't be physically, love even, cannot be physically perceived. It's not relevant, or either it doesn't exist. Which comes out of this is a thing called existentialism. Many of you might have learned about this in high school philosophy classes too. Here's 5 objections that you hear on the campus to the concept of God. I put the Christian's concept of God, but I could have eliminated that and just put the concept of the Western concept of God is what I probably should have put. Religion is a crutch for the weak. Science makes God unnecessary. There cannot be just one way to God. Better check my time here. I'm okay. We're going to finish early. Looks like that's good. Many Christians have done horrible things. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Christians are doing just as bad as us. A loving God, listen to this, would not allow evil or send people to hell Why is there so much evil in the world? If you believe in God, your roommate may tell you these things. These are things you may hear from professors, your roommate, or in clubs that you're in. There's a certain aggressiveness to some activist left people. I think that I'm seeing that. Students are asking me what they should say. In fact, I've responded with a new video channel for college students that I'm going to roll out in the next month. I've already tried it out a little. It's going to be called Holy Thinkers EDU, where I'm going to help with a lot of this with short 2 and 3 and 4 minute videos where you can go and listen every day and hear a religious thought, a spiritual thought for the day, but also get some guidance. Religion is a crutch for the weak. Science makes God unnecessary. Why we got God? We got science. There can't be just one way to God. Come on now, y'all just believe in Jesus, whatever. Many Christians have done horrible things. A loving God would not allow evil or send people to the world. Now, you might think there's no response to that, but I'm about to give you a little very basic thing in the area of what we call apologetics. We're not apologizing for our belief, but we have responses that we're not ashamed of to each one of these. This is another reason you may want to carry this presentation with you. Here we go. Shout out to, like 10 years ago, Elder Graves for getting me to understand these. Number one, the real issue is not whether religion can be a crutch, but whether Christianity or belief in God, or if God exists. That's really the question. Don't let them get you off the question. Remember, it was back here, religion is a crutch for the weak. That's not the issue. It's whether it's true or if God exists. Many scientific conclusions, hallelujah, point to a creator. Let me see if I can get some of those done. Just why is it that bees know how to make a hive? We haven't explained that. Yet if they stop doing what they're doing, the whole ecosystem will collapse within about 5 years. Just why is it that we're in the only, listen to this, that we're in the only part of the galaxy, Milky Way galaxy, where there's no gamma rays or not a lot of big asteroids flying real close or hitting the Earth. And by the way, there was one that flew 1 million miles away the other day that I chuckled about knowing I was going to do this. Why is it that our moon, we've now seen over, I think it's 80,000 solar systems with the new that have exoplanets that are even outside of our solar system, and we have not identified a planet where the moon is the same relationship in size to the planet as our moon, and how it listen to this, how it exactly eclipses the sun. No one else can see an eclipse the way we do on Earth. Why is it that we have a big brother called Jupiter, ooh, glory, and Saturn and Uranus, that when asteroids come into our solar system, they're deflected to those planets and pound those planets and don't get to us? And just why is it that we're a perfect, listen to this, a perfect distance from the sun for the formation of biological life the way we know it? A little closer, we wouldn't have formed. A little further away, we wouldn't have. There are things that can be explained, like DNA and RNA, and just how do they work? Why we're using things in AI and chips and quantum physics that we can't explain, but we're using them. We don't even know why they work and how they work. Why is it that an electron looked at the same particle spinning here, you look at it on Pluto, it'll be spinning exactly the opposite? Why is it that when you observe some things, they exist? When you don't observe them, they don't exist in quantum physics? These things point to a creator. Clearly, they have to be explained. And what is it about the existence of humanity on Earth? Some believe it's like you drive by a junkyard and just randomly things came together to form sophisticated devices. Scientifically. And by the way, science does not rule out things. Science and belief in God can coexist, like the origin of the universe being a big bang. Third, contradictory religious claims cannot all be true. That goes back to number 3. Why is there only one way? Well, somebody's going to be right. Maybe it's one of them, but contradictory claims cannot all be true. Bad behavior is the evidence of human sinfulness. So when you see Christians that are cutting up and people who believe in God, it's just evidence that, I think, great evidence of human sinfulness and a need for a savior. I would add that, but I didn't have to add that. 5, heaven and evil and hell are the consequences of choices that humans have made, not what God has said. It's free choice. He gave us a free will. So I just want to give you those responses. The Bible and God's existence. First of all, the existence is assumed without proof. Genesis, here's the biblical scriptures, if you want to look at those. Notice I did my apologetic without scriptures, but here's some with scriptures if you need scriptural proof. Foolish to deny God's existence, etc. They're all in the Bible. But I tend not to talk to people about my belief in terms of Bible verses. It's a personal relationship I have where we can talk about him without verses. Traditional argument for the existence of God. Causation. It all started somewhere. Come on now. Everything in the universe has a cause. Therefore, the universe must have a cause. Physicists think it's the Big Bang. Somebody said, what about the idea in quantum physics that there could be multiple universes? Fine, well, who created that? A lot of us look at the Spider-Verse and we saw the Flash movie, which I think is a cool movie. Can't change everything, by the way. Need to see that Flash movie. That's the theme of that. That's why I really like the pondering lately around that. Gives me a chance to talk to people about the universe and existence and philosophically about how it started without having to give them Bible verses and give them a way of understanding God. Hallelujah. Order. We got a certain order, don't we now? Days become weeks, weeks become years. Time seems to be, listen to me, linear and move forward, right? It suggests the existence of a rational designer. Again, I make an argument for the existence of God, aren't I? So I want you to feel proud of that, because you get to that campus, it's difficult for you, my students tell me, which is why Sister Brianna was talking last week about getting connected with people who believe like you, getting into those Christian groups. But she said getting involved, period. That's why getting involved with people who think like you is so important. Being, our ability to imagine God, implies that he exists. Woo! That we can think about, is there someone up there, someone above us, someone who cares about us? It's called an ontological argument. Morality. Isn't it funny how all the movies have a good guy and a bad guy? That's because God has placed his mark on us. There's a clear understanding of right and wrong. That's why I love the Guardians 3 movie so much, y'all. I really need to do a video on that. I mean, the higher evolutionary was the example of evil. And I think that movie did a great job of responding and how we should respond, how we should protect each other from evil. It's really a great movie. You probably should see that too if you get a chance. The 7 arguments around the existence of God, to summarize: the existence of the universe, the beginning of the universe, the argument from intelligent design. I won't get into the evolution thing today, but I'm telling you what, whether you believe he created evolution or he created us directly, there had to be something that started it all, which is the logical, philosophical difference we have with the Darwin theory. Argument from intelligent life's origin, we talked about that. Argument from morality, knowledge of good and evil, and an argument from the Bible. I gave some of those as well. Argument from the history of Jesus. All right, let's continue on. LGBT plus will be a large part of your college life. All right. You could have a gay roommate, but probably not a transgender one yet, or most likely. In other words, if you're a male, you won't have a woman that thinks she's a male living in your dorm. There's only one campus that's playing around with that. And I don't think I've heard any of you go in there. I don't think it's going to Many of you even know about. There's one college that tried it, it's now out of business. Isn't that interesting? That's Mills College. They closed their doors. So I'm going to say yet, that's not happening. But you could have a gay roommate. They're generally a significant part, LGBT, of campus diversity efforts. Now, it's a good chance for me to stop and talk about tolerance and approval. I need you to have the love of Jesus Christ for everyone. I need you to, if you even have a gay roommate, if you don't have a problem with it, you need to get to know that person. I have heterosexual students that have roomed with gay roommates. All I'm not trying to hit on them, get out of here. That's wrong for you to think that. I should probably get a stomach. Christina, remind me to have the twins at USF on, okay?
Okay.
Please remind me. I want to get them on here next week. At least one of them, okay? They have some very interesting things to say about that. I need you to be like Jesus Christ when they brought that prostitute woman to him and threw her down. Actually, I like the way Jesus Christ handled that. He asked them, was anyone among you that's willing to cast the first stone who don't have sin against you? And of course, none of them did anything and they left. And Jesus laughingly asked the woman, where are your accusers? Now, of course, he did say, go and sin no more, but he didn't condemn her. The Bible says that Jesus had dinner with publicans and sinners. Sinners is an all-inclusive term. I need you to understand me when I say that any Christian that takes an opinion against LGBT because you think they're evil, if any preacher is telling you in church on Sunday that, you need to really check that, hallelujah, at the door before you go to college. And anybody comes up to you from your Christian groups and tries to tell you that, you need to pray for them. It's not of God. You are to tolerate and love everyone. So important. I cannot stress that enough. It may surprise some of you. It doesn't surprise me. I think I've helped at least 3 gay couples with their children going to college that they'd adopted. You might say, well, Deacon, how could you do that? Well, because I love them. I love their students. I've become very close to a couple of students. They need people to care about them too, just like all my students. They're my students. But now, do I approve? One of the couples asked me, they love me so much, they asked, could I help after I helped their kid go to college? They asked me, could I help them by counseling them in their marriage? I said, that's where I drew the line. I couldn't do that, I told them, but I gave them a reference. Tolerance versus approval. I need for you to develop that maturity. Just because you're friends with someone doesn't mean you have to prove everything about them. I use the word friend kind of, you're acquainted or you're social. I think it was Brianna last week, right, Brianna? Where you said, get around to all the different groups. Did you say that?
I sure did. Yeah.
Or did I miss something in your video?
No, that's correct. Because that's exactly what I did in college and I continue to do.
You agree? Am I getting this right?
Yes, that's correct.
Something wrong with me here? Please tell me. I know a lot. Go ahead. What do you say?
I said, no, that's correct. Because that's how I lived my life in college. And that's how I lived my life growing up. I grew up in a community that was very diverse. And my friend groups are still very diverse. And then like in college, it was the same way too. I always try to think of myself like a bridge between communities.
And I know you're being very nice here. And I'm sure that means you have gay, I know it sounds kind of condescending, but it's true. I'm sure you have gay friends.
I sure do. Yeah.
Matter of fact, the person that influenced me the most, shout out to Chuck Rhodes, used to be at Sonoma State. If anybody seen this video knows him, tell him he's the man. And shout out to Rodney Johnson from George Washington. Both of these were gay men who were excellent in providing me information on how to guide parents with college. We miss a chance to develop relationships. Oh, glory to God. I'm feeling this. but doesn't mean I approve. I think Rodney said he admired that about me. The other day he called me out of nowhere about a student, and he helped me with a student issue at GW right now, even though he's retired from GW. Tolerance versus approval. I want you to remember that. I'm going to mention that several more times when I go through these transgender issues we're having in this country today, because it is on fire at that issue right now. And I'm going to be sure I walk the correct line, a Christian line on this. This is the hardest part of getting ready for the day. LGBT plus students will be active in the Multicultural Center. Don't be shocked by that. Right, Brianna? Is this right?
Yes, because I was a programming intern for my cross-cultural center, and my job was to create programs for all communities. And so that was one of my jobs. So yeah, we have different centers at San Diego State, but at the time, everybody was a part of that cross-cultural center.
We got to do this. We got to figure a way to walk that line. More to come, because I want to get you to understand what I'm thinking when I cover what I'm going to cover in a minute. Here are groups who reside in the Multicultural Center. Let's get it right. Don't get it twisted. Black Student Union. Except I don't think they have Black student unions at Black schools. That's not to be funny. I think it's true. And I think some of them don't have multicultural unions, but I think most of them do. Hispanic students, LGBT, women's group, Asian Pacific students, and others. You heard about that on Brianna's video last week. I hope you go back and look at that video, because her video is on that video. And it's very good at covering these issues, these groups. And you need to be involved. I need you to be active in these groups. I need you to be active in the Greater Multicultural Center, then active in your specific group too. I need you to do both. And I need you, if the Asian students are having some kind of big event, you should at least swing over there and get some food and eat with them.
Yeah, that's what I would do that all the time in college. I would always go volunteer at their high school conferences, and I made friends with them, and we became allies and made differences on campus.
And won't it be that some of those people might be in your professional network when you leave school, no?
Yeah, and we all help each other out. Yeah, we're still very close. We help each other out with different opportunities. Yep.
Here's another one to get deeper. I have Black students that leave their schools, and some of their best friends are even white students. I often say that, I used to say this, why did I stop saying this? Going to a school that's multi-ethnic and not spending time with other people and getting to know other students is like taking a shower in a raincoat. Why are you even in school? Why are you even there? It's hard for us as Black students to get it, because there's a tremendous redefining or retconning us to be separate and have our Black space on campus. I do not like Black spaces where other people can't come in. Go online, look at some videos. I was going to show some today. They're really very disgusting to me.
Mm-hmm. Can I say something really quickly?
Yes, please, go ahead.
I was just going to say, at San Diego State, we had this area, I don't know if it's still there, called Little Africa, where all the Black students would hang out. But we had other friends, I had a really great Asian friend, he was involved with all the Black organizations.
Yes.
And we all embraced him because he was from the Bay Area. So he was there, he'd take do cinematography and do all that stuff. He would help out our organizations, but we all embraced him. And we never excluded people and said, oh, you can't be here because you're not Black. It just happened to be the area where more Black people hung out. And we also allowed other people that didn't look like us to hang out there too.
Yeah, Arizona State, one of my students told me, though, they have a Black space where they have guards and keep people out. And I don't like that. I think that's not right. Oops, I called out of school. I shouldn't have done that. But I did it anyway. I don't think that's of God. Sorry about that.
I feel like,
as you know, okay, go ahead. Real quick, go ahead.
Oh, is there a space where you're not allowed anyone but that your race? That is unacceptable, because it shows that is some backwards thinking, because what we want is an equality world where everyone can be accepted. And if that is the way you're treating other people, why it really is talking the legacy that the people that have been fighting for us, because all they want is equality, not separate.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like, yeah, you're right. That's a good point, Anderson. It's kind of a strike against what you believe. You believe in wanting to be accepted by them, then you're keeping people out. Oh, Lord have mercy. Let me leave that alone. Multicultural Center is an important place on the campus for you. It really is. All right, here we go. I got to do this. LGBT plus issues were a large part of your college life, but here's some other things. The campus will also reflect the fact that T activists, notice what I did here, everyone. I went from transgender people as a group and as people to the activists. See, that's the way it is in society. They're always the people in every area that go too far. That's true on the right and the left, by the way. I could do a whole thing on that, but I said I wouldn't get too political here. But I want to give you a sense of what's happening on the campus. T activists are involved in huge conflicts with many in today's society. Not sure where that's coming from, but it is happening. I have some videos to show you about this. It's important to note it's not the fact that they're being hated on due to being transgender. And again, anybody that's doing that, ooh, remember, gender is thought to be fluid by the majority of transgenders, but most transgenders and others on the left believe that this fluidity has created more than 50 genders. In fact, Facebook has 56 genders, and I think CSU has 9 or 11, and UC has 12.
There are 50 genders?
50, well, they have it, and Facebook has 56 genders. I think USF has about 45 that they've identified. I don't want to get into all that. Hence, why you do see pronoun uses. Again, I have no problem with pronoun use, but sometimes some schools are going to require you to accept that there is and make you sign things. A lot of students are uncomfortable with that. I think it's a good time probably to say something. It's, again, not a problem with transgender people. It's just some of the activists have gone too far, and some on the left are overwhelmingly supportive of transgender activists, okay? So you have to be kind of ready for that. I defined leftism earlier. Just be aware that you might encounter some requirements, and I have trouble with that, and that's something we're going to talk about. Maybe it's a good time to show. Yeah, I'll show this few graphs, then I'll show you the videos to show you. I think I have some videos that will show more what I'm talking about. Here's T activists on the left view, the church conservatives, and anyone else who is against all against all LGBT. I just told you I'm not, because they are different. Any disagreeers are haters. So if there's any disagreement with some position they're taking about getting into your thoughts, there's a problem. I'm going to give you examples of all these. The current party is very, very close, Democrat Party, is closely aligned with the left and activists. This makes some of my Democrat friends unhappy because of the activists. This is causing uncomfortable fracturing, and even in the church at this time. Let me go ahead and show these videos now. I think this would be a good time to try to do that. Pray for me, Christina, on this. This is me trying to get technical here, all right? So I think I can do it, though. All right, here's a video that I want to show you. Hold on. Not this one. Not this one. Hold on. This one, hold on. Here we go. This one here. Let's take a listen to this student talking about one aspect of the problem. Hold up. You won't be able to hear the sound as well.
Here's another example.
I want to make sure you can hear the sound.
You can, have love for transgender people, like all people, and that the Lord commanded us to love.
Can we hear that okay?
And be nice to. I think we should. It's the Christian command. But again, where the movement may have gone a little far is this whole issue of athletics. Now the issue of, it didn't cover in athletics the competition issue that they're when they win meets, swim meets and track meets. And we have a case in front of the Supreme Court about that now. Many parents think that's unfair, but let's take a look at a video that I did recently that I think you will really be able to understand this young lady's concern. We can talk about it on the other end. Hold on. Let's take a look at what's going on with that. I'll put it up for you and I have some comments.
Hold on here. I want to make sure you can hear it. I'm just sharing the sound here. Let's go again. Here and there, but I'm gonna let it pretty much play, okay?
That occurred regarding a transgender woman who really is a biological man having an altercation with a young woman at MLK High School. It was infuriating when I had seen the video on social media, but what was detrimental to—
Oops, sorry about that. Hi again, students. It's this whole issue we already covered. Many parents think that's unfair, but I think you will. Let's take a look at what's going on with that. I'll put it up for you and I have some comments on it here and there, but I'm gonna let it pretty much play, okay?
that occurred regarding a transgender woman who really is a biological man having an altercation with a young woman at MLK High School. It was infuriating when I had seen the video on social media, but what was detrimental to this is the fact that this man is and has been using the women's restroom and locker room.
That was California high school student Megan Simpkins calling out her school board over its transgender policies. She says the district allowed a student who is biologically male to use the women's locker room, which led to an assault against a female student. So she spoke out, and she joins us now. Megan, thank you for being here today. Walk us through your decision process. You saw the video. You used to be a student.
This young lady is showing a lot of courageous. You'll see her during this interview. She was obviously had trouble getting through it emotionally, and as anyone would who's gone through what she went through, you'll hear more about it. But look how brave she was speaking in front of that school board. And I just hope we're raising youth that are this way. Kudos to her upbringing, I suppose. And let's take it from here.
There, and you decided you had to say something?
Yes. Although I'm no longer currently a student at MLK High School, I believe that as a woman, a real woman biologically, down to my DNA, I have XX chromosomes. I have the capacity to give birth. I menstruate. It doesn't matter, if you're a male or a female, because those are the only two genders there are and will ever be. But because of this incident, the safety of women is being jeopardized ultimately, and we're actually at the Capri for humiliation, degradation. And
men, how do you react when you hear that? What if that was your daughter? I need more men who step forward and tell me they want to help. I need to get men on video saying this is not right. I want to interview some real men. What do you say? That are willing to say, this is an attack on women. Women need our protection and our security. This young lady is out there. She should get our support. I'm going to reach out some kind of way to let her know that I support her and encourage her. I don't even know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out through this auntie or something. But men, I need you to hear this young lady. She's struggling. She's in pain. Come on. Men of God, where are you? All right, I'm going to continue this.
and dehumanization, because the school board is basically telling us women specifically that, it doesn't matter that you were born a female. It doesn't matter. This male can have male genitalia, and it doesn't matter. He can just claim to be a female, and therefore it's a-okay to just enter women's spaces. despite how the majority of women feel about that.
Do you, what have you, the feedback you've received? I'm sure you've had blowback from people saying that they are against what you said, but have you heard from students who might have said thank you because they might be afraid to speak up for themselves?
I have not heard that personally. Surprisingly, a lot of people at my school have not really recognized me. I have had 2 students come up to me and say that, hey, you really spoke out on the behalf of women. We're proud of you. You go.
Nice.
But on a personal level, I've received a lot more hate, a lot more criticism. I mean, I've been called a white supremacist. I've been called a bigot, you know, transphobic. And
Now, what kind of stupidity is that? To call a Black young lady who's experiencing fear in the bathroom a white supremacist. What does it have to do with race? Unless they're totally upset that she's a female and that she's Black, I guess that's the only thing it could be. In case you're wondering, I did reach out and express to her my love. She knew she was the niece of a lady who had sent her children through my program. She had reported this to me. And I had another young lady, we don't have time today to do it, but it's on my YouTube page if you want to hear the recording. I interviewed a young lady from a local high school who was put out of school for not wishing to be taught to say a certain thing that trans women were the same as women, and also over a bathroom incident with a trans woman athlete. So the stuff is real. Now, why am I covering this? I'll cover it in the session in a moment, but I'll say it now too. I just want you ready when you get to the college campus. This stuff is going on. You're going to be quickly pulled into situations. I need you to be able to walk the line and say, hey, I love you guys. I love your group. You know, you can count on me to support you, your activities, but I have a line I got to draw, and I can't sign this petition. Or a teacher to be able to tell a teacher, sure, I'll do the assignments you're giving me in my ethnic or gender studies class, whatever it is they're requiring you to take, but you don't have to go across any lines you've drawn. I'm sorry, you do not have to, and don't feel that you're odd or something's wrong with you. That's part of that leadership thing that I let off with today and I told you about. Being a leader is not always just leading people. It's being the second, third, fourth, fifth dancer, if you remember the analogy from earlier. All right, thank you much. And then there's this video here that I should probably show you too. Hi, students. Here's our first example of how in the transgender movement, things that may have gone a little far. There's probably about 7 or 8 general areas, but let's just stay with a couple today. I'll mention the others in the session. The area of transgender or trans women, that is, who are playing in sports with women. There's a concern for fairness and safety. I'm gonna hit the safety part today. There's a fairness issue that they take up spots from women, and I don't think it's fair to women who are competing in sports. Perhaps there should be a separate category for trans women or trans athletes to compete in. That would be the compassionate way to do it. But there's a fairness issue, and then there's a safety issue that's brought out by the following video I'm going to show you from the news. And I should comment, these are from Fox News. Some of you think that Fox News is of the devil. Actually, I listen to all news. We'll talk about that later. I listen to MSNBC, CNN, Fox. And it's good to get all perspectives because you learn that some things aren't covered. There are things covered on CNN that aren't covered on Fox. Those topics just haven't come up today. There's things on Fox all the time that are not covered on CNN or MSNBC. And you need to know what's going on. And I'll suggest how to spend your time getting news in college. And that's one of the reasons we want to have a news site, but that's something I'll talk about later. But take a look at this video. And remember, the issues are not whether we disagree or agree with transgenderism. It's a free society. People can pretty much do what they want as long as they don't hurt each other and as long as it's fair. And those are the two issues, two of those general issues I mentioned when we talk about transgender athletics. Transgenders in athletics, particularly with women. You don't ever see trans men, women who want to play with men as often. And there's some safety issues there, by the way. Once boys grow to be stronger than girls, they probably shouldn't play together in sports, but that's another whole issue. Let's take a look at one right out of current events today. Stand by, I'll put it up for you.
A story getting a lot of attention now. I want to take you down to the Tar Heel State, North Carolina Senate Committee, passing a bill that bans males from female sports. And our next guest has quite a story. She's a high school girls volleyball player. She's been urging lawmakers to take action after she suffered a concussion and a neck injury back in September from a transgender player spiking the ball during a volleyball game.
I could go on and on about how this incident has affected my life, but I'm not here for that because I'm not here for me. Allowing biological males to compete against biological females is dangerous.
I want to bring in Peyton McNabb, the woman you see there on screen and here in person. Welcome to New York.
Thank you.
You're from Murphy, North
We've been
Carolina.
waiting for you.
Yeah, you're in the far western part of the state. First time on an airplane. First time to New York City. You're living life. Back on the 1st of September, I've seen the video. You took a shot.
It's hard for me to watch.
Yeah. What do you remember from that?
I just remember the very, very silent and shocked gym after it happened. I remember the fear from my teammates, knowing that they would have to continue to play the game even after that incident happened. And I just remember everyone just not knowing what to do, and it was just very, very traumatizing.
What was your recovery like?
It was hard. It's very slow. It's been very difficult, you know, not being able to get back into things as I have in the past. So it's been very difficult, but thankfully I'm improving.
Did you know immediately when it happened? Like, did you know you were playing against a transgender?
Yes, we did.
Okay. So, and then that happens, and had you been concerned about the strength of this individual before the game?
Yes.
Okay.
Very much so. But we couldn't just refuse the game since it was a conference game, so we had to continue to play them, even though none of us wanted to. So it was definitely.
So during warm-ups, right? You're checking out the other team. They're on the other side of the court. What did you see, and what did you think of that player's performance?
It was obviously a lot different than what we've been seeing the rest of the season or the rest of the years I've been playing. I was very used to it, though, at that point, because he's the same age as me, so we played together all 4 years against them. But I just remember seeing how, like, the fear, and especially our younger players on the team who've never played against them before.
Wow.
So just seeing how scared they were, it was really heartbreaking.
Did you hear from that individual afterwards?
I hadn't heard from them at all until like a week after I spoke out for the first time. They sent me a message on Instagram, and it was very hateful. There's no remorse at all, and so
Like angry towards you for saying something that biological males should not be allowed to play against in female sports.
Yes.
Well, the State House has taken action, and now the Senate looks like it will as well. But you got a Democratic governor, Roy Cooper. Do you think he would agree with the lawmakers in the State House to ban?
No, definitely not. He definitely will not agree with this whole situation.